Hey guys, welcome to another SOS guide. This time we'll be looking at part 2. This guide will be split into 3 different parts depending on which main DPS unit you're using. Please use the timestamp to skip to the parts you need. The first team we'll be featuring is the Mont team. I'll be using 3 different teams from the highest scoring to the lowest scoring. This team is perfect for players who are using Messa for the first part and do not have Fox for the second part. Chord will not be very useful here as Mont does not benefit too much from the highlights. Let's go over the build we're using for Mont before moving on to the run itself. Now let's take a look at Mont. We'll be using Mont's skill 1 for the whole fight. While she's built as a single target assassin character, we'll be getting a lot more points using her skill 1 instead, due to the fight having 4 enemies. The higher her awareness, the more points you'll be getting. Huge power spikes are at her awareness level 2, 4, and 6. Now let's take a look at her revelation cards. As for revelation cards, we'll be using Growth and Opulence, allowing us to buff her ice damage when she uses her resonance. As for weapons, 4-star weapon will suffice, however, you'll want a 5-star for more consistent resonance activations to stack her revelation card bonus more effectively. As for the other characters, not much introduction is required. I'll briefly go over their revelation cards. Soy is using Control and Departure, Leon using Trust and Prosperity, Rico using Labor and Resolve. Moving on to Wonder, we'll be using the Ex Machina to further boost Mont's damage. As for the choice of persona, Skadi is mainly used for the Ex Machina boost as well as a highlight, which allows for increased damage taken. Chord is used for Maracunda for an AoE defense down. If you're not following my part 1 guide, you can use Non instead of Chord for more defense down. This provides a higher scoring potential, however it introduces more RNG. By inflicting both Windswept as well as Norn's passive, you're able to enjoy much higher defense down compared to Chord. Lastly, we'll be using Dionysus to buff Mont with Rebellion. Without further ado, let's get into the fight. First team uses Leon. This is also the team which has the highest score. However, if you're following my part 1 guide, you'll not be able to use Leon. Instead, you can opt to check out the other 2 teams, which replaces Leon with either Vino or Tomoko. So for turn 1, we'll be emptying all of Soy's ammo and hopefully inflict daunting firepower on every single one of them. So we'll start off with Maracunda for the defense down, and Leon would alternate between skill 3 and skill 2 for the entire fight. As for Mont, she'll be using skill 1. We use Wind's skill 1 to debuff the enemy. And use Soy's skill 2 on one of the enemy to bring their defense down. We use Leon's highlight on Mont for the attack bonus, and Rebellion on Mont for both crit rate and crit damage boost. Off with Mont's skill 1 again and see the difference in damage compared to the first turn. Notice how that Wonder is now getting focused down by one of the enemies. In order to remove that debuff, you can use Soy's skill 3, which will transfer the taunt over to Soy instead, allowing whatever characters that's inflicted with the debuff to survive. Now we use Tarakaja on Mont, damage back up, finish off with DNS's highlight and skill 1 font. You can expect much higher damage values if you have a higher Ascension Leon as well as Mont's 5-star weapon. Here we use SOS gun again. Make sure you have Messa Synergy up so that Soy can refresh or reload his bullets, and we cast Maracunda on the enemies again for the defense down. So is getting targeted again. You do not need to use his skill tree here, as he should have enough HP to survive the barrage of attacks. So we use skill 2 and Wanda. We use Skadi's highlight here. The turn order is important to allow Wanda to switch his persona here to Skadi to pop the highlight. If Wanda is in the first position or the third position, the highlight order will be a little bit delayed, so Mont will not be able to do a highlight at the end before the final turn. As you can see, Soy can survive the barrage, no problem. So since this is our last turn, let's focus all in on attack buffs. We need to bother healing the other characters, because even if they die off, it wouldn't really matter. So there I use smash hit on a different enemy, so that there's 2 enemies with defense down from Soy. This allows Mont's skill 1 to do extra damage to both of those enemies. And we finish off with Mont's skill 1 on enemy that we have been debuffing this whole time for the big single target damage bonus, and finish off with a skill 1. With damage variance, you should be expecting at least a score of 3 million. With Soy's 5-star as well as maybe Mont 5-star weapon, you can see scores of up to maybe even 4 million. So let's take a look at the next run. For the next 2 runs, we will feature a similar rotation. Therefore, I will not be making any more commentary. The only change will be the characters by changing Leon into Tomoko or changing Leon into Vino. So enjoy the last 2 videos, and I'll see you guys for the next team. Moving on, let's take a look at the second team featuring Sepia as our DPS. This team will not come as a surprise to people who have been following my channel. I always loved using Sepia in SOS even though he might not be the best option sometimes, but it gets the job done. Sepia is back stronger than ever due to the 40% final damage buff he is able to get from the SOS special effect. Not much has changed since the previous video. There are certain changes you can make to the team, however. If you have Seaside Tomoko, you can replace Soy with her for more scoring potential. Not only that, you can replace Sepia's Revelation card with Pleasure and Wisdom set for more damage if you're running Seaside Tomoko. If you're not, however, I recommend using Oppression and Wisdom set for increased status ailment accuracy instead. Moving on, the next change we can make with Wanda is teaching Pazuzu Agidai. Burn is able to deal a respectable amount of damage as well coupled with Curse, giving us more points. If Vino fails to land Burn with a skill 1, then opt to use Pazuzu to inflict Burn with Agidine instead. Don't worry as he's still able to detonate the Curse stacks. With that out of the way, let's get into the run. Sepia will spam skill 1 on the enemy that he is weak. Vino will use skill 1. If you do not inflict burn on turn 1, I suggest restart the run. Soy will empty all his bullets to generate burst stacks for Sepia. It's important to have Messa Synergy leveled up so that Soy can reload his bullets. Here we use Demonic Decree instead of Arginine as the enemy is already burnt to further build her stacks. We use Okean's skill tree, provide a damage boost, which further increases damage over time, stack damage. We use Sepia's highlight here to boost his follow-up attack damage, and use his skill 1 to build curse stacks again. We use Vino's skill tree to increase damage taken, further increasing curse damage. Here I use skill 3 instead of skill 2. This Wanda's HP is low. Ideally you use skill 2. I was checking if the enemy was burned. Since it's still burnt, I'll use Demonic Decree again. Here we use Sepia's skill 1. And Vino's skill 1. It's not the end of the world if you do not land burn there. Just inflict burn with Agiadine instead. I use Soy's highlight to recover HP and empty his bullets to build more burst stacks. If you do not have Messa Synergy at 17, you will not be able to do this. And alternatively, you'll use skill 2 instead. I have an optimal rotation written in the description, so if you have any questions, you can also leave them down in the comment section below. Now we use Okean's skill 1. With the increased ailment accuracy, hopefully we can land a couple more curse stacks with Sepia. We use skill 3 again, alternate between skill 1 and 3. For Soy, we use skill 3 as Wanda is almost dead. Ideally, you would run skill 2. If the enemy is still burning, we'll be using Demonic Decree instead. So we pop Vino's skill, hopefully inflict burn, and we use Okian's skill tree. Do one here. And we empty Soy's gun. Wonder's HP might be low, however it's okay as Soy has the taunt. So Wonder will not die. Since the enemy is still burning, we'll use skill 2. So we're approaching the final turn. And we finish it off with Wonder's Anubis highlight for the final curse stack. We use this instead of Sepia's highlight as it not only provides guaranteed curse stacks but also a bit more damage. And that is the run. Expect a score of maybe 2.5 million to 3 if you have Sepia A6, and if you're running Seaside Tomoko as well. Lastly, let's take a look at Yan team, which is unfortunately the weakest team we have so far, even though An herself is a fire sweeper. She does, however, perform a lot better or at similarly to Sepia, so if you do not want to build Sepia, she is an option as well. It is also important to note that I have an A4 An, therefore my scores will be a lot higher compared to someone who has an A1 or A2 An. Therefore, I would suggest to not use An, but instead use either Sepia or Mont instead, as my Sepia team could easily perform as well as my An team with minimal investments. I believe this team does not need much introductions, so we'll move on directly to the run itself. We start off with Marakunda to inflict defense down on all the enemies, followed by skill 1 on Cattle to burn and buff the team with Starfire. Spread the burn with keys skill 1, make sure to target it on an already burning enemy to spread it, and we use on skill 1 to give her a self attack up as well as debuff the enemy with an attack down. This allows the team to survive enemy barrage easily without putting too much pressure on the healer. If you have Minami, you can swap Lufel up for Minami. Here we use Okian skill 3 for the damage buff. We use Rebellion on An for both a crit rate and a crit damage buff. Pop a highlight here so that it can refresh before the last turn to pop a highlight again. When healing with Lufel, make sure to target the character you want the Starfire buffs on. Now that all the enemy is burning, we use key skill 2 to inflict all of them with Sacred Fire. And we finish it off with An's skill 3. An's rotation is simple, we'll be alternating between skill 1 and skill 3. Following this, we will use Tarakaja on Dominion for both the cohesion and the attack buff. Use key skill 1 on the enemy that is burning to spread the burn, and finish off the turn with on skill 1. But before that, use Wonder's Highlight and finish it off with skill 1 to refresh the attack down as well as our own attack buff. As you can see, with the attack down buff, it makes this part a lot easier to survive, because otherwise the enemy would be doing 2000 to 3000 damage, easily killing whichever character they're targeting. Now we use Okian skill 1. We cast Marakunda again to refresh the defense down buff. And we buff the team up with Starfire again by using Hello skill 1. Now we use key skill 2 as everyone's burning to inflict Sacred Flame. And finish off with on skill 3. Pop Okian skill 3 to enjoy the damage buff for the final 2 turns. Here we heal with Lufel after popping Rebellion on An again. Pop Key's Highlight for burn as well as a damage taken increase. And since all the enemy are burning, we can use skill 2 to inflict Sacred Flame. Finish off with skill 1 from An. Lastly, we use Cohesion. on for the star high above. Skill 2 again since they're all still burning. Use on's highlight before finally using her skill 3. That'll be the end of the run. So our score isn't the most amazing. I've done a fun little run after this which uses Futaba to inflict weakness so that An can enjoy 40% final damage bonus. Here's the final team that I'll be using, although it is not very practical as you would rather use Futaba in part 1 as you can score a lot better there, as well as for my guide I've used Chord in part 1, so you will not be able to follow this one as well, but this is a fun little rotation that I tried to play around so that An can get the 40% final damage bonus to see how much our score is, to see how much we're gonna get. So without further ado, let's begin. This is a much longer video than usual, and I'm not sure if I'll be doing this kind of content for the future SOS, as the possibility of running different teams get more diverse in the future. But if I get a good reception of this, I'll be sure to continue this series. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. If you guys got any ideas for any videos that you want to see, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll try to make videos on it. So yeah, thank you guys, see ya.